name is Frank J. Klum. It's K-L-U-M, and my rank when I, at the end of World War II, when I got out of the service, was a staff sergeant. I enlisted, but it was a fraudulent enlistment because a week before the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, I went to the recruiting station and took all my exams and everything else, and I was just 18 then. I was just out of high school since June, and when I went down and I took my exams and everything else, I passed everything, and they told me to take these papers and have them signed by my parents, because at that time you had to be 21 in order to have a legal signature. So I went on home, I took the papers, and well, they told me that I could have it, my mom's signature and dad could be verified by the postmaster. So I took all the papers home. When I got home, and I asked my mom and dad to write their names for me, and I practiced for about 3 or 4 days. When I thought I had it just about right, then I signed their names to the application. I went to see the postmaster, and I told him, I says, Leonard, I says, Mom and Dad have signed my enlistment papers here. I says, but we got to have your signature to verify their signature. So he looked at it, and he just signed his name. So then that was like I say, the week before, and I had to, and then when I took my exams, that was a Thursday before the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, and the guy asked me, he said, when you want to leave, today, tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday? I says, well, whoa, I says, make it Tuesday. So Monday I had to turn my paperwork in, and when I did, this was in the McKeesport Daily News, showing us, of course they said that recruiting office reports rush here. This is just a picture. There was an article about it in there too, saying that local youth seeks chance to fight Japs. So Tuesday, I went to Pittsburgh. I was sworn in, and then from Pittsburgh, I went to Cumberland, Maryland, to the reception station where I got all my gear and everything else, all my uniforms and everything. And then from there, I went to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, which is right outside of St. Louis, and that's where I had my recruit training. So when I got through, that was in December of 1941, because I got in the service 2 days after Pearl Harbor. And after my recruit training, I was assigned to the 47 Bomb Group in Fresno, California. So we left St. Louis and went to Fresno, California. We weren't there very long because we were originally slated to go to the South Pacific. We were supposed to bring our outfit up to strength and everything else. Then we were supposed to take off for the South Pacific. But while we were there, they changed our orders. So instead of going to the South Pacific, well, we were assigned to Will Rogers Field in Oklahoma City. Now, when we left Fresno, California, we left by a troop train, and all our equipment was in the box cars and all the flat cars, and all the personnel were in Pullman cars. Well, on the way to Oklahoma City, we just got across the border of Texas into Sayre, Oklahoma, when all of a sudden we derailed. We had a train wreck, and they come to find out later there was sabotage there because one of the rails had been messed with, and the rail come loose, and the whole thing went up in a big heap. And then, of course, my being one of the later people in the organization, of course, they chose me to pull guard on the equipment. So we spent about 3 days and 3 nights there guarding the equipment. And when they got everything all cleared up, then we went to Oklahoma City. From there, we were sent up to Fort Dix, New Jersey. We were at Fort Dix from the latter part of August until the 5th of September 1942, when we boarded the U.S., well, not the U.S., but the HMS Queen Mary. and went overseas on the Queen Mary. There's the Queen Mary that I went. It took us 5.5 days to go from New York to Glasgow, Scotland, and we had to change our course every 7 minutes to keep the German subs from zeroing in on us. From there, we got on a train and went to London, England. Then from London, England, they put us on trucks and sent us to Rougham Aerodrome, which was in Bury St Edmunds, England, which is just a few miles from Cambridge. We were the advanced cadre, and I guess at the time they thought that we were going to stay in England. But when they invaded Africa, well, I went from Bury St Edmunds to Southampton, England, and I got there, I'd say maybe about the 10th of November in '42, because that was 2 days after they had invaded Africa. We got out there and we tried every morning for about 5 days to get off the ground, but we were fogged in every day and we couldn't go anywhere. So finally on November the 15th, I got in a C-47 with cabin tanks, and they flew me and a bunch of and the rest of us there in our organization. They flew us from Southampton all the way to Casablanca, Morocco. At Casablanca is when our other parts of our organization that had come from the States, well, that's where we finally got back together again. I was just in Casablanca just a few days, and then we were sent to a town outside of Casablanca for just a few days, and from there they flew me to Euxlabane, Algeria. That was the base where one of our squadrons was being based. Well, that was on, I think it was Christmas Eve we got there. The next day was Christmas Day, and that's when I experienced my first bombing raid. The Germans came over there and bombed the field. So the next day after that, they shipped me and other people from my squadron all the way up to Talep, Talep, Tunisia, which was the furthest advanced airfield in North Africa, and that was right in the Kasserine Pass area. Well, when we got there, it was nothing but an open field, and there was a fighter outfit. It was a P-40 fighter outfit that had been there, and when our squadron got there and when we started flying missions, well, this fighter squadron used to do the they used to provide air cover for our bombers, and I used to have to go over there and pick up the commander of the P-40 outfit and bring him over to our outfit so that he would brief them. And of course, while we were there, we had to live in foxholes because the Germans had air superiority, and we were getting bombed and strafed quite regularly. In fact, every night they would send a Ju-88, the Junkers 80U aircraft, over our field at night. They carried 4 bombs, 2 under each wing. So when they got over the field, they'd drop one bomb, fly around for a while, then drop the other one. Then time they dropped all 4 of them, well, that's when we could breathe a sigh of relief. They were trying to get the gun crews to fire at them so they could get our position, but they didn't do that. But while we were there, we had no bathing facilities whatsoever, and we were rationed 1 canteen cup of water a day. And that's what I used to drink. I didn't shave. I couldn't take a bath. So we were there until Rommel made his push through the Kasserine Pass, and our airfield was on the way. It was in his way, so we had to evacuate. But before we evacuated, well, we had to destroy any aircraft that we couldn't get off the ground. One incident when we were there in Talep, as I was saying, we used to get raided quite frequently. One day I was out there and we got strafed by German fighters, and I was in the Jeep, and I couldn't find a foxhole to get into, so I saw a big box just about maybe 30, 40 feet from where I was. So I got on the north side of the bomb, this box, because they were straight from the south side, and because I thought I was in a safe area. I no sooner got on the ground behind that box, and all of a sudden, the dirt in front of me started kicking up. It was about 20 feet up in front of where I was lying there. And I turned around, and there was an ME-109 that was firing his guns, because there was a plane. One of our planes was right maybe about 100 yards in front of where I was. And of course, he shot up that airplane and took off. But that's the closest. And when the pilot came by, he was no more than about 20 feet off the ground. I could see the pilot just as plain as day. I can still see his face right now. And well, when we got pushed out of the airfield by Rommel, and we went to Canberra, Algeria. When we got there, there was sort of a spa that was there. So when I went to take a bath, I went to pull off my shirt. My shirt come off at the sleeves because it had rotted, because I hadn't bathed in over six or 7 weeks. And boy, it was good to get a bath, I'll tell you. But I wasn't at Canberra very long when I was reassigned to a new organization. It was a combined English and American outfit. It was called North African Tactical Bomber Force. And when I was assigned there, I was assigned with one of our officers. And we were there with them doing forward bomber control work until the campaign in Africa was over, when we got all the way up to the Cape Bon Peninsula. Well, after they kicked the Germans out of there, and the Germans got out of there, well, from there I got on an LST and went from Cape Bon Peninsula to Gela, Sicily. I went all through the Sicilian campaign. In fact, it was on one occasion when I got up in the morning, and when I had to get ready to go, when I saw General Patton climbing up into his tank. He had these old pearl-handled guns and everything else. And of course, he was one of the major generals that are going through Sicily. We followed Patton and also General Montgomery, because we did bombing for both, for the 8th Army and also for our forces too. So after the Sicilian campaign was over, I was in Palermo, and then the first part of September in '43, they flew me from Palermo all the way to Oran, Algeria, where I got on board the USS Ancon, which was the command ship to be used for the invasion of Italy. So we left there, I think it was around the 5th of September in '43, and we hit the beach there, and the invasion started on the 9th. I was on board the ship for 4 days before they would let me get in, before they would let us get off. Well, while we were at that beachhead, that was the 4th day, I got off the ship, and we got into a truck, and we started heading down to where he was supposed to take us. Well, I'm sitting in the back of the truck. I don't know if I was sitting or standing. I think I was standing. And I looked at the side, and we were passing up the infantry. And I'm thinking to myself, something's wrong here, isn't it? We shouldn't be going in this direction. But then in front of us, about maybe 75 yards, was a tank. And that tank kept rumbling down along, and we followed it at that distance. And there was a building on the left side of the road there. And as soon as that tank got past that building, it was hit by the German artillery shell, and just knocked it out. Of course, then we did a quick 180 degrees, because the driver knew we were going in the wrong direction. Because if that tank hadn't been there, it would have gone right into the German lines.